Hello everyone, I'm Adam Davies and welcome to FinTech Insider On Air episode 43. David isn't here this week, clearly, so you've got me instead. Last week, Sarah Kajansky, the great Sarah Kajansky, called up with the guys from Finimize and they talked about financial literacy in adults. Good episode, so go find it on the 11FS YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you're watching this and you enjoy our video content, then check out the new documentary 11 Years, The Rise of UK FinTech, over 11years.film. This week, we're going to talk about chatbots, AI, and open banking in the fintech industry. So here's some stats before we get into it. 40% of millennials say that they chat with chatbots on a daily basis. Some 46% of large fintech companies consider AI to be one of the most relevant emerging technologies for investment. And it is estimated that AI will power 95% of all customer interactions within 5 to 10 years, with customers expected to eventually prefer interaction with machines over humans. To talk through some of this and how AI can play an integral part in our fintech industry, we have John Natalizia.
Perfect.
Yes. CEO and co-founder of Snoop. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here. And I love the jersey, by the way. It's
Thank
good.
you.
We're going to have to do a swag swap.
We might have brought something for you.
Oh, have you? Amazing. Okay, fine. We'll hunt that down later. Very at the top level, what is Snoop?
So maybe if I take a step back, so a few of us basically, when CYBG bought Virgin Money, decided to leave Virgin Money, but really focus on really the journey that we were on. Obviously a totally different proposition, but really to build a new customer champion. And obviously not being in a bank, which is massively liberating, we're able to be a lot broader in what we can do. I mean, essentially, if I take a step back, we're trying to solve a few problems and we believe a few things. So the first one is that consumers shouldn't be worried whether they're getting a good deal or worry if they've been, screwed by company A or company B. The second one is, as open banking has reported, if it's 12 billion, I don't know, but they refer to 12 billion in opportunity, really, or a loyalty penalty with people not actually being able to switch, stuck on existing deals. The third thing is the fact that people are really busy, right? And it takes a lot of time and effort to find better ways to manage your money. And essentially, we're trying to address that by creating Snoop as a customer champion through using open banking, obviously, getting people sort of back in control of their data, using it on their behalf for their advantage, and really following our purposes to make everyone better off.
Cool. And I guess from a demographics perspective, in terms of who you're actually targeting, have you needs-based, or are we talking more sort of demographic-based, or how are you sort of slicing up your customer base or potential customer base?
So the way we're approaching is doing all of those, but really to try and make everyone better off, our demographic is really, really broad. It's not just focusing on millennials or a particular age group. We believe that we can add value to a whole range of consumers, because actually those problems do range.
Manifest themselves. Yes. And how, we'll talk about Snoop at the end a little bit more, but from a journey perspective, how are you finding working for a sort of a small fintech versus the big monolith, and how's that sort of change? How's that happened?
It's amazing. It's amazing how fast you can go with less people. We have a fantastic team. I'm massively privileged to be working with them. They're really smart, except for me. I learn from them every day. We've got a great development partner. We've got a great data science partner as well. I always got really frustrated in sort of governance and sort of over-governing, over-controlling. Nothing got done, 15 layers to make any decision. I was lucky enough in the experiences that I've had. I've always kind of worked on sort of new and emerging things within the institution. Therefore, we were able to deal with some of that. But I don't worry about not having big infrastructure, because I just see all that as slowing us down. And plus, no legacy, and you can sort of start fresh, which is amazing. You can go a lot faster. Cool.
All right, nice. We are here to talk about chatbots and AI before we go into the wider subject of open banking. So I suppose chatbots, flipping it, they've been around for many, many years. I suppose those in the fintech industry as well will know them very well, obviously. For you, how are you working chatbots into your proposition? What areas are you using them for? And then I guess how common are they going to become in your proposition in particular?
Okay, fantastic. So there's like 17 questions there, right? So
we can.
No.
You can go for like 10 minutes, and I'll just sit back.
No, it's okay. I mean, Snoop itself is not a chatbot, but obviously we're using the technology that will sit behind us. So
sure.
Various forms of data science, AI, machine learning, and eventually sort of deep learning.
Right.
In short, what we are trying to do is essentially when customers connect their accounts with us, obviously with their permission, yes, we'll show them a bit of money management. Really, the sort of hero USP for us is to deliver them sort of tailored, personalized actions and insight that are 100% based on where they're spending and what they're spending on, right?
Cool.
And that's ultimately our hero journey. Imagine like a Pinterest of things that are all massively relevant to your to your money. So clearly, open banking data doesn't just do that, right? There's a whole process and technology that we need to do, that we need to implement. But AI and machine learning will really be how we will join the sort of snoops that we refer to tailor things that are to your databases to make them most relevant. And the snoops, as we call them, they're really ranging, right? They're from just us maybe recommending a great app that's out there that you might want to use because based on how you spend, you could actually get some rewards. It could be,
sure.
did you know that if you travel abroad a lot, you could, but you're using, card A on Uber, actually if you use card B, you'd actually wouldn't be charged FX.
Right.
To, of course, then, things like, switching utilities to maybe financial services.
Cool.
But even other things like, I actually didn't know this, but, if you care about charities, right? And you shop a lot at Amazon. If you go to smile.amazon.co.uk, you can actually give some of that, Amazon will give some of that spend to charity. So it's really, really broad. Right. To deal with that, we obviously need, it's a balance between, as we refer to, human intelligence and artificial intelligence, right? And we're trying to bring the two together. Chatbots is a really interesting topic. I'm really fascinated by your stat.
So am I. I'm looking at it slightly perplexed, but we'll come back to it in a second.
I think as consumers, we're probably exposed, if that's probably the wrong word, to sort of AI, machine learning, and various chat things without us knowing, right?
Yes.
Look, I can see I think chatbots have got great use cases right now for certain things if they're done well.
Yes.
I won't mention a particular provider of TV that uses one. It's absolutely horrific, right?
Right.
But when done well, I think it is really good. I think for certain demographics, I think people love that interaction.
Yes.
I'm just a lot more interested in sort of what sits behind it and trying to use that technology that way.
So because I mean I suppose the commonly held belief is that chatbots at the moment are designed to take away cost in call centres / customer support. Yeah. And that's, I suppose, an obvious first place to start, the obvious use case and beachhead for chatbot technology. And we've kind of sort of arrived at that bit, having sort of use tested quite a few other cases, but this is the one. I suppose from a percentage perspective, we've got things like frequently asked questions and whatever else, but of all the traffic that you envisage coming into Snoop from a customer inquiries perspective, how much of that would you, from a percentage base, would you see, or is the target for you to be moving towards chatbots and AI automation so that you obviously don't therefore have to scale a human team behind it?
So the on machine learning and AI, a very large proportion, very large percentage. Now, as our sort of data science team keeps on telling me, it's fine to have machine learning and all that technology. Yes. Remember, you do need humans also to, calibrate that, and it needs to learn over time. Yes. One interesting thing about our proposition is actually, as consumers, you can sort of interact with these snoops. You can give us feedback on them, right? And that we will be using to sort of make that algorithm, better and better. So if we just got it purely wrong, then you can just tell us, and you'll never see that again. But in the back end, we will. The algorithms will learn that and therefore get better and better over time. And
just for clarity for listeners, snoops are, I'm assuming, notifications and insights based on the data that you guys have amassed, and therefore...
Correct.
Yeah, fine.
Correct.
Got it.
It's kind of our hero journey, but of course you can see your money all in one place and all that kind of stuff that other PFMs do.
Cool. Okay. And I was going to ask you this, again, I was going to leave it to end, but I'll ask it now. The differentiation between, because this is a relatively crowded space from a FinTech perspective, if you're in the industry, obviously being you guys registered under open banking as an ASB?
Nearly.
Okay, cool. But there's a lot of those who are at the moment.
Correct.
There's a lot of aggregators. There's a lot of PFMs. Aggregators are probably, I'm thinking more the CMA9's interpretation of what an aggregator is. There's a lot of money providers and PFMs, and then there's obviously the TSPs, which you guys aren't. How do you differentiate in that space? Because there's I suppose it's not widespread adoption yet, but there's a lot of players going for it. So how can you get to the head of the race, I guess?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So, I think it's great to have players who are playing, in sort of the open banking space where we are. I think, people like Plum, Emma, Clio, you're all doing it sort of a great job to increase the awareness. And we need that. Because open banking is relatively new, right? And it's a fair leap for consumers to do that. Although the adoption that we've seen is good and positive, and if you're very positive about that, the market that we're in is actually could be quite big, right? So there's probably space for a number of people. I think, if I may, for what I'm seeing, there's a lot of sort of really money-focused, sort of banking-focused, looking at your money by category, so PFM, digital money managers. Really, what we are trying to do is, through these Snoops, we triangulate, so the best of the experience that we're seeing in some of the neobanks, turning this sort of price comparison model and existing incumbents, sort of that customer engagement on its head by, rather than the customer having to do all the effort to go in, right, actually turning on its head, where we take all the cognitive load and at the right time recommend a series of things. But then also, help from a sort of directing customers in places where, if you shopped over there, you could get some cash back, or there's a deal to be had over there, and so on and so forth. And that's really is trying to play in that space by joining these disparate things that we haven't yet seen been joined together. Yeah. Each of those in themselves are massive, but the customer has to sort of do them individually now.
And do you think it does make sense? So I've worked on open bankings before, programs before, discretionary open banking programs, and obviously we know quite a lot of the PFMs that are out there at the moment. One thing I was quite interested in asking you whilst you're here was, do you think there's a benefit of being a fast follower? So I suppose from my perspective, obviously Yolt and some of the others have been first for a fair few things on the open banking, and actually have been part of the implementation entity initiative, and have obviously sort of trailblazed a little bit and got a lot of customer numbers, active, passive, question mark. But to be a fast follower and see potentially what's happened over the last year with those kind of organisations, bigger organisations, can you therefore pluck the best from them and then sort of amalgamate those kind of features and functionality in terms of what you're doing, and therefore does it benefit to actually be sort of 6 months behind those guys? Yeah.
So I'm not so much worried about being a fast follower.
A very fast follower, considering they've only been around for 5 minutes. But
So we've only been going since March. Right? We've been going for years, right? And in March, literally, it was just
open banking is only like just coming to place. But
I think where it is a real advantage is around the maturity of the open banking APIs, PSD2. And sort of hitting the market at the right time. In some ways, a lot of the other guys we've talked about, to be fair to them, they really hit the challenges head on.
Yes.
And some that have moved from sort of screen scraping into open banking, they've also had that transition. We've kind of can luckily sort of miss all of that. We obviously will use the latest open banking APIs. Look, they still have challenges, clearly.
Sure.
Right, but that's really the big advantage, because with all this, anything around AI really does revolve on the sort of quality of the inputs.
Yes.
Right, and so if the quality of the inputs are crap, basically you can have the best tools in the world. So there's, of course we have to do some work to do that. One advantage of doing it when you start afresh is clearly we have no legacy. One great advantage of open banking is, as a fintech, you can take advantage of great new technologies that are actually quite low cost, gives you a huge amount of capacity and power.
Sure. Yeah.
But also when the customer connects their account, you actually get a lot of data on day one.
Yeah. So I was going to say, it's there is the old adage of garbage in and garbage out, and that was going to lead me on to my next point, which is the CMA9, the data that you guys pull from. How good are those APIs at the moment, without naming any names?
That's a great question.
I'm looking. No, we're all right to ask it. We're all good.
Yeah.
No names though. No names.
No.
In general, they are
variable.
variable. Okay.
Yes.
So thumbs up, some thumbs up, and some thumbs down. And is that from the quality of the data you're getting back, or just like actually connecting to them in the first place?
I think the connection is broadly okay, bar the various sort of downtimes. And to be fair, like, you know, with the latest release of the API and PSD2, everybody's been really busy making a lot of changes. So you know, you've got to cut them a bit of slack, right? Yeah. I think what we're also trying to do with the data, there's you know, obviously we are working with somebody to help us, you know, act as that intermediary, because just sort of accelerated us.
Cool. Okay.
Really for now. So.
Right.
That helps us quite a lot. But you know, as we're seeing the data come through, different banks interpret things in a slightly different way.
Sure.
Whether they should or shouldn't, who knows? But you know, the overall infrastructure and security around the APIs is strong and robust. I mean, that's the whole point, really.
Cool. Okay. I think from as a wider macro question, I suppose how vital do you think open banking is or will be to the success of FinTech, I guess, going forward over the next fair few years? So it's sort of come in as on a wave. I think consumer acknowledgement of open banking isn't great, nor necessarily should it be, because in theory it should be wonderfully seamless and integrated well into all products and propositions that come out. But we get a lot of interest from banks and FinTech players who aren't based in the UK. Super interested in the model. Yeah. We've got everything, you know, we've been through all the pain. We can literally pick this up and shift it to another geographic location, and in theory it would run wonderfully. But from your perspective, I mean, obviously you've built a FinTech on it, so you obviously
we definitely believe it.
Yeah, you're definitely believers. But for you, how much of I suppose, how far is there to go with open banking? So is it a case, in your perspective, that it will drive the FinTech industry, or do you think it's a way to try and get banks to expose data, and then actually, should those practices become, I guess, the norm, then the implementation entity and the legislation will sort of ease off a bit and just let everybody at it? Yeah.
So I actually think it's possibly a bit of both, right? So, and I'll explain that. So I think from a FinTech perspective, it gives you sort of immediate access to a lot of data and understanding customer behavior on that, and therefore you can build sort of n number of different solutions on that. You know, I think big banks can use open data as well. Again, but I think really the opportunity is sort of beyond just the basic sort of money management and seeing all your accounts in one place. Now, that does have a lot of value though, because if you think about, you know, most of us now have multiple accounts, right? Mm-hmm. You know, before you really just had one main bank account and that was it. But, you know, one great thing about new entrants has been that people are kind of multi-bank, right?
Sure.
And I think it's great to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, but to save you a bit of time, bringing all of that together, I think is valuable. Mm-hmm. I agree. You know, this is, what's the right word? You know, it's a bit of a revolution, right? Transformations. I don't like that word, but you know, the opportunity I think is amazing to do some real good for consumers. But I think those of us playing in the space should continue to focus on talking about the outcomes that it can give for customers rather than the sort of technology itself. And I think sometimes talking about sort of just open banking, it's a bit like, you know, when the big banks are talking about ring fencing, you won't take money out of the ATM and bank, who shall remain nameless, tells you around about ring fencing and sends you a letter about ring fencing.
You're like, what do I care?
Who cares? What are you talking to me about?
Yeah.
This is as a result of the bad things you did. You know, just sort it out.
It's an amazing amount of education. I remember back when I was working on an open banking program, I remember the amount of education, not even from a consumer perspective, but within the bank that I was working at, the amount of education and an understanding of how this works. Because people were, to your point, people were still talking about open banking as a thing that they needed to imprint onto consumers. This is happening. And actually the educational point was, well, actually it's not as black as white as that. This is a function. This is something which you can use to power propositions. Yeah. That's it. And the more invisible it becomes, the seamless it becomes, actually the better it will be. Yeah. And that was really difficult, I think, because it's legislation and people are just very used to getting legislation and just throwing it at customers. Yeah. That kind of education point of actually, you know, assimilating it into a product, I think is what the difference has been from an open banking perspective, maybe to other legislations that happen. It's been super interesting to work in that space. Is it safe?
Yes. and way better than screen scraping, right? So I mean, I think.
Do you want to explain what screen? Just in case anyone doesn't know what screen scraping is.
So this is where I guess an app you essentially give an app your login details, and they sort of automatically log in for you and scrape the data off your particular, banking site or
with the consumer's permission.
With the consumer's permission, but you're sort of holding the login details. Whilst
right.
what the open banking sort of pipe allows you to do is to do that. You're in control. You yourself are logging into your own bank. The credentials are stored are known by you and the bank. And then if you give us permission, we just sort of pull the data through it. But I think there's sort of it's more than just the security around the open banking protocols. I think all of us playing in this space, have a big responsibility, right? So I think it's right that the FCA regulates, entities like ours. We're asking the customer to do a lot. We're asking the customer to trust us with their data, and even putting the regulation to one side. We need to build a robust and secure technical architecture to protect that customer data. And I think that's. I don't worry about it because we're investing a lot of money in it, right? But I think we all playing in this space need to, hold that responsibility for all of us collectively. Because if somebody doesn't do it right, that could have an impact.
Sure.
That's what I sort of worry about, the competition.
Yeah, sort of the house of cards thing. If one goes down, then the scrutiny will go up.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I think from in terms of what you can actually provide. I guess from an open banking perspective, if you're looking at the data that's available at the moment, if you take that data right now and you put an AI lens on it and then you back that up with machine learning, how much of, I guess, what you can pull down from at the moment is mixing in those other technologies is actually worthwhile, is actually useful. So, and I'm in my mind, I'm thinking credit decisioning and helping obviously with things like loans and whatever else. And I'm thinking around helping onboarding so people don't have to submit, hundreds of years of bank data. But how practical is it? Like in theory, there in my mind is use cases and they are being worked on. But sort of what's the proliferation at the moment across the industry, in your opinion, obviously?
Yeah. So. I actually think it's mixed, right? You don't start with machine learning. Right, that's the first thing.
Lesson number one.
Yes. So, I'll be honest, I haven't been in this space for 100 years, right? So, I sort of assume certain things, so you sort of educate yourself. You sort of got to start with the basics and, sort of know what you're trying to do and be clear on what you're trying to do, and then sort of unpick it from sort of the bottom up, so you kind of you're using the right technologies at the right time. Because starting with, which some people I guess have done, a super complex model, I mean, you probably wouldn't get any, you actually wouldn't get anywhere because you're constantly sort of tweaking it.
Yeah.
And that's why, in our experience, we built this interaction between the customer and us, so we can sort of learn, and it's actually based on real data that we're getting. With all this stuff, I think it just takes time. I think if you build a really compelling proposition and show customers some value and they engage with it, then actually the thing sort of gets better and better for them.
Cool. Okay. Quick question for me. I'm a delivery guy by heart, so this sort of speaks to me. How do you envisage making money from Snoop going forward? So if you look at the Plums and the Emmas, they've all got that kind of additional product, the Pro product, or the Monzo Plus X, which costs X or Y. Is that a base model? Is that like the first thing because it's the easiest thing, it's the most obvious thing, just to add different features and then charge for them? And where do you see, I guess, in the future, once you start open banking potentially unlocks things like investments and pensions and other forms of data? Is that where actually the real money is going to come? Because obviously the business models are different.
So I'll actually start with the last one. So which doesn't necessarily answer your question, but I will come to the question.
Go for it. Again, I packed about 4 in there.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Worst interviewing technique ever, but anyway.
That's fine, don't worry. I think, we're starting with open banking and the scope of accounts that open banking has. Obviously, we're massively, we're hoping that, other financial products will sort of follow suit, and then other open sources of data, be that energy and other things like that. And we are essentially, our platform will be based on consuming all that data, again, with consumers' consent. So I think in terms of making money, I think it's a range of things. And one way in sort of business speak, I guess, to think about sort of our Snoop feed is essentially like a marketplace. But instead of that marketplace sort of being over here in the app, it's actually front and center, and it's not just about partnerships that we're going to make money on. It could be just simple insights that we make no money on, but we know a customer could benefit from hearing it. So of course we'll have some partnership, income that will drive that. The key thing, and to be honest, we haven't even launched, and we've been quite transparent about that on our website. But the key sort of promise here is that we'll only give you, even if we're making money from that particular referral, we'll only give it to you if it's relevant based on what you're spending, right? We'd love not to charge for the app, and don't intend to. And also, we're looking at sort of maybe different things, different ways of thinking about it. If you saw our chair, Dame Jane Ann's recent interview in the Sunday Times, talking about Snoop and the current latest role, she should have referred to it tipping. It's something we're looking into, we're really excited about, and it kind of keeps us on our toes because we need to deliver value to the customer. And if they're happy with it, then we might ask, hey, do you want to give us £1 or 2 or 3, whatever you think that service is worth
cool.
for you.
All right.
So, but it puts pressure on us, right, to deliver that, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's good. The proposition that you provide should always wash the face of the next round of investment, whether it's a proper, investment round, or even if you're just, charging more services from consumers. So it's definitely the right practice. Where are you guys based at the moment?
So we're in Waterloo, literally in the station. We migrated from Pret to a real office.
This is startup, baby.
Yeah, this is it's slightly Harry Potter, but there is a door that I've been going through that station for years, and there's a little door that I never saw that I pass through every single day, and you just go through there, go up 2 floors, and then
it's not like a brick arch. It is actually a door.
Yeah, it's a door. Yeah. Opposite platform 20 to 24, yes, not 9 3/4. But so we're there now. We've been there. We'll be there for a number of months. We literally did start in Pret and my house and
that's cool.
Random places around London. But
that's the way it works. And then how big is the team now, and sort of who do you employ? So from a skills perspective.
Yeah. So we're really lucky because we literally started with 12 people. All people that we have worked together before on different initiatives, and all sort of crucially sort of joined in our sort of purpose to make everybody better off. It's a great team. We have technologists, we've got engineers, we've got architects, we've got product people, we've got a great marketing team, operations, people that know marketing technology, social, comms, and all sorts. And we're also using some partners to help us enhance that team, so a development partner and a data science partner, and that's broadly us. So 12 and some friends that have joined us on this journey.
Cool.
All from day one, all equally really excited about what we're doing.
And you're at the moment, where are you from a product perspective? Because it sounds like you're there, about to be there.
Yeah. In my head we're there, yeah. We're ready to launch tomorrow. No. So look, we will launch in the first half of next year. We are talking a lot about Snoop at the moment because we're now able to. We're in
cool.
Hiding for a number of months. But over the last 3.5 weeks, we've sort of put our website up. We've are inviting people if they want to sign up on a waiting list and possibly get early access. It's massively exceeded our expectations. Literally, I can't even sort of compute the interest, which is amazing, right?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I'm really grateful to everybody who has, and but it's also good learning for us because we're encouraging people to give us some early thoughts and feedback. And,
sure.
There's some good stuff.
It's a cool name, Snoop.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen some real random ones,
yes.
But this is kind of on point. It's good. I was like, oh, that makes sense. When the name actually almost justifies what you guys do, there's a link between the two. I'm like,
right, thank you.
That works. Cool. All right, where can we find out more about yourself?
So first
Clearly
of all,
the website and the t-shirt.
So first of all, from website snoop.app. We're on all channels. You can follow us on all the channels because they're slightly different, but the tone of the narrative and the messages are the same. Some more fun than others. For myself, on Twitter at John Nats1, And then I'm also on LinkedIn if you can spell my surname.
Cool. All right. Thank you for tuning in. And that's all we've got time for this week. If you want more insights like this, why not listen to our FinTech Insider podcast? And also, you can check out our film 11 Years, which I plugged at the beginning, but I will plug again. It's available for free on 11years.film. If you want a topic discussed on air, hit us up, message us, tweet us. We're all over your social, I'm sure, so just let us know. And for now, that's it. We'll see you next week.